Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to go to the shops together. Nice little shopping trip for both of us. On an average day I consume about 1200 to 1400 calories, and that is what we're going to go shopping for. I've set a budget of about £20 because it's just me. So for 3 meals a day, probably 7 days a week, I reckon I can get stuff within £20. We are going to Aldi. If I do overspend, I do overspend. This isn't like a challenge, but it is just a general guide of what I sort of eat and how much money I like to spend week to week. So let's get to it. Got me handing down these shopping bags because, you know, save the planet and all that. Bye. I did try to film in the supermarket. I went to Aldi, but people were looking at me like I was an absolute psychopath. So I only managed to get like 3 items. And then I just thought, no, I'm not going to do this anymore because it's completely embarrassing. So yeah, I did what I could. So this is the entirety of what I bought. As you can see, it's £28, but I did end up buying things that I needed anyway, so not all of it was applicable to this video. For example, I bought toilet paper and tissues, shower gel, and then like hay fever tablets, which probably came out to around £5-6. So yeah, I was a little bit over. Like I said, this isn't a challenge, so it's not necessarily I had a budget and I wanted to spend that to prove to you that I could purchase things within that budget. So there are things that I didn't get because I already had at home, but this is just a general idea of what sort of things you can buy when you're on a 1200 calorie or 1400 calorie meal plan, essentially. So I decided to move to my table because it was just going to be way easier to show you everything. What I thought I'd do is I'll go through it like category by category, just so you guys can sort of pinpoint what I eat in what food group. The first thing I'm going to show you is like meat or fish, that sort of thing, basically like my protein intake. These are frozen prawns. I tend to have these in like a salad, or I throw them in with like a rice dish maybe, something like that. My alternative fish option is of course salmon. So I like to have salmon. These are boneless fillets. I do take the skin off as well because I just find that they're nicer without it. I do sometimes choose to go for tuna, and I have like tin tuna, or I can buy the tuna fin steaks. But this is pretty much my go-to. So we're going to move on to the poultry side of my protein. This is something I get probably every single week. The food that I have here will probably last me longer than a week, but I would always have chicken breast. I bought 3 because obviously I've got other sources that I can have, and it is only for me. I don't need any more than this. I'll probably freeze a couple of these breasts and then take one at a time. I also go for some turkey mince or ground turkey. I prefer this to beef mince because it just tastes better to me. You don't get the gristly bits. I used to eat a lot of corn mince, but I find that they've changed the recipe, and ever since it's kind of stodgy and it soaks it up. So yeah, I just go for turkey mince because it's a preferable choice for me. I think the next category we're going to go to is like my veggies that I have. This does vary quite a lot, and there are other things that I have in my fridge, so everything that you see here isn't necessarily what I will eat during the week because there's always food in our fridge. We'll start off with the trendiest food item, I think, and that is avocado. I know this probably classes as a fruit, but I have it as a vegetable. I think most people do. This I will have for breakfast, for lunch, or for dinner. It doesn't matter. It's pretty versatile. Mushrooms. Always go for mushrooms. I love mushrooms. I think they can be incorporated into most meals. Just like the avocado, they're pretty versatile, and I can also have these for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. We've gone for a classic romaine. Now, I like to get romaine because I sometimes make turkey burgers out of the mince that I bought, and instead of using a bun, I will use lettuce. Yes, you can buy like just a head of lettuce. That's pretty cool, but I like the flavour of this, and it's got a little bit more crunch to it, so that's why I go for romaine. Got myself a cucumber. There isn't a way I could show you this without looking like I'm touching someone's genitals, so we're just going to move on quite swiftly from this one. I have got vine ripened tomatoes, or beef tomatoes, I think they're called somewhere else in the world. I love these. I used to hate tomatoes as a kid, but recently I've very much got into them, and I could eat them like an apple. I don't because that's really weird. But yeah, I enjoy these. These are something I would get every week. There is another vegetable that I use as a staple, but I forgot to buy it. And that is a courgette or zucchini, I think. That's something I use in a lot of my meals, and I love it. It's low calorie and it tastes good, so I roast it, or I can put it in a pasta dish, something like that. I love it. I also use potatoes in my diet sometimes. I've just gone for 2 ordinary potatoes, like white potatoes, and 1 sweet potato. This I'll use as like a jacket potato, or I will use it in a soup, or I'll mash it, roast it. There's pretty much limitless things that you can do with a sweet potato or potatoes in general. I probably should have shown you this with the vegetables, but I have onions because I put onions in most of my meals. Everyone knows what they can do with onions. I get through a lot of eggs. So this is 12 eggs. I'll probably get through this in about a week or 10 days. Eggs are quite popular in my household because, again, they can be versatile. You could use them in your breakfast, lunch or dinner, which is ideal because I think flexibility is really key. When you're limiting your calorie intake, it can get boring pretty quickly. That's why I like things that I can use for each meal, because I can switch it up, and hot or cold, or sweet or savoury. A lot of my meals I will try and avoid things like rice or pasta, but if there is something that calls for it, I will go for brown rice. I will probably have this with maybe some chicken, or I'll do like a mince dish in a sauce and serve it with some rice and veggies. This can also be put into my soups or broths. I do prefer white rice, and sometimes if I want it, I'll have it, but for the most part I will try to eat brown rice. It's cheap, and this whole packet will last me a couple of weeks. For a snack, I will go for some chopped veggies or rice cakes. I haven't bought them, they weren't on this shopping list. I do have some in my cupboard in the kitchen, so that is the sort of thing I would go for. To go with, I don't know, the chopped vegetables or maybe like a pita, I will have hummus. It is the reduced fat hummus. I think that it tastes the exact same as normal hummus. It's just slightly less calories and not as fatty, which is good. That's what we're going for. And it's delicious. I love hummus. I could eat it all the time if I wanted to, but I do have to limit the amount that I take in. A great snack option. This snack category brings me onto this bundle of food. So this is dark chocolate, and it is 70% dark chocolate. I usually get 85, I don't know why I picked this up. These come in little bars, so this isn't one big bar. These come in this sort of size, which I like because it's controlled, so I know that each bar has a certain amount of calories, and that if I eat it, that's all I've eaten. Rather than when you open like a big bar of chocolate, you're sort of estimating how much you're eating. Whereas this, I can pretty much guarantee that I will have consumed the calories that it says on the packet. This should last over a week because there's 5 bars in here, but I do not have a bar a day. I will probably have one every few days because it's just chocolate's still chocolate at the end of the day. If I'm going to eat something a little bit more indulgent, it's probably not going to be this. So I'll only have this if I feel like I want something sweet, but not that indulgent. Along with that, I will always have strawberries. These are great as a snack. They're also great for smoothies. They're also great to put on my breakfast. When they're in season, they're delicious. So at the moment, these are really yummy. Strawberries are something that I will go for quite often. I do also buy a frozen version, and I've got frozen fruit in the freezer. That is also something that I will buy, but I don't need to buy it every week because frozen fruit lasts me quite a while. If you want to go for an alternative or a cheaper way of doing it, go for the frozen. This is the only berry really that I buy fresh because I find that fresh fruit goes off quite quickly. I also buy apples. I love a good apple, and I find that an apple will really satisfy me, and they fill me up almost immediately. I don't know what it is about apples, but after I've taken the first few bites, I feel like I've had enough. And then I've just got things that sort of generally go along with my day-to-day food, so things like sauces. These are jarred sauces, so I've got onion and garlic and bolognese. They're mainly tomato, I mean, who are we kidding? I will make most of these myself, but in the days that I'm feeling particularly lazy or slow, I will reach for the jarred sauces. But if I'm not feeling lazy, then good old canned tomatoes will do the trick, and I will make something out of that to go along with the food that I've bought. One of the last things I've got is breakfast stuff. I rarely have cow's milk. The only time I'll have it is if I'm out and they don't have an alternative. Sometimes I'll have it in my coffee in the morning if I don't have enough almond milk. I don't use normal cow's milk with my breakfast because it's just not something I choose. I like the flavour of almond milk, and it does the job. It's a good alternative. And then this here is our oat box. I consume a lot of porridge. Morning in, morning out, I will have porridge. If I don't, I will have something like Weetabix. But this is my go-to. It's filling, it's nutritious. You can do all sorts of things with it. There's a lot of options that you can do with porridge. We keep it in this because we buy like 3 big bags of porridge at a time, and we chuck it in here because it's just easier than taking it out of the bag every time. And then last, I have something that I wouldn't necessarily eat a lot of, and isn't necessarily something that people would consider having on a diet or a restricted calorie diet. That is bread. This is a seeded bloomer. It's like a multi-grain whole wheat bread. Sometimes a sandwich at lunchtime is what I'm craving, so I'll go for it. But this loaf of bread, providing that it doesn't go off, will last me probably over a week, because I don't consume that much of it. It's not something I have daily, but I do like to buy it as a backup. Most of the time, this is just an accompaniment to my soup or something like that. Okay, I'm gonna go put all this food back in my fridge before it goes moldy. I hope this was helpful. This is just, like I said, something that I would use week to week. This isn't everything, but it's the majority of what I'd buy, and it's something that I would buy repeatedly. So it's kind of just a basis to work from. And then if there are things that you don't enjoy in this, you can sort of adapt it. If there are things that you do enjoy, you could buy more of and stick to it. It's up to you, but most of it's pretty versatile. You could use it for each meal, and you could change it up and make different recipes out of it. So yeah, that's kind of all this was for. Thank you very much for watching. Please give it a thumbs up or comment or subscribe to my channel. It would mean a lot to know that this sort of information is useful for people. I struggled to find something that was very much applicable to me, so yeah, that's why I'm putting it out there. Have a good rest of your day, and I will see you soon.